And Nicola Sturgeon has said she wants a second independence referendum to be held in October 2023. Scotland's First Minister joins us now live on Breakfast from Edinburgh. Good morning to you. Thanks for being with us. I'm thinking back to the last referendum in 2014 when you said that was a once-in-a-generation opportunity. 8 years is not a generation, is it?
Well, let me take that point head on. You know, the last referendum, 8 years, getting close to a decade ago, people like me said to the Scottish people, look, make sure you don't lose this opportunity. We might never get the chance again. What we didn't say, because we couldn't say, is that any politician in future can stand in the way of democracy. No politician can say to a country, you get this one chance and you will never, ever get it again. Democracy is not a single fixed point in time. People have a right to change their minds when circumstances change. And that's the other key point here. Circumstances have changed significantly and dramatically in the UK since 2014. You know, most notably, Scotland has been taken out of the European Union and the single market completely against our will. Ironically, in 2014, we were told that we would lose EU membership if we became independent. That's happened because we are not independent. We're also told that Boris Johnson would never become Prime Minister. It was a ridiculous prospect. It may have been a ridiculous prospect, but it is the reality. We have yet another Westminster government that we didn't vote for and is taking us in the wrong direction. The worst cost of living crisis in the G7, the lowest growth in the G20 with the exception of Russia, children being plunged into poverty at the stroke of the Chancellor's pen, and evidence that shows over generations countries comparable to Scotland across Europe with the powers of independence do better economically and socially. So independence is about charting our own course, working with others across the world, but having the levers, the powers, the resources to better navigate all of these challenges we face and fulfil our potential. And if you went to any other independent country in the world and suggested that it might be better for them not to be independent, they would look at you askance because independence is how countries make sure they chart their own course in the best way possible.
But so much of this is about timing, isn't it? I mean, you've given a list of the ways in which things have changed so dramatically, unforeseen ways over the last year. That's true. But there'll be people this morning who are saying, you know, the pandemic, the cost of living crisis, a war in Ukraine, that at a time like this, independence isn't what Scotland should be thinking about, that this is a time for stability, maybe holding off for a while. What do you say to them?
Well, firstly, I don't think anybody seriously could look at the UK right now and say it represents stability. And I do think that is a serious point. But your general point, I accept, is one of the things I have to convince with colleagues and persuade people of. Because independence is not a distraction from these big issues that we're facing. Independence is even more necessary in the face of these challenges because it equips us to provide the response to these challenges that is in line with our values, aspirations and our interests. Right now, many of these things are being made worse here in Scotland and I would argue across the UK because of the wrong-headed decisions that UK governments are taking. You know, why does the UK right now have the highest inflation in the G7? Inflation here about double what it is in France. It's because of Brexit. It's something done to Scotland against our will. Why is it that our businesses, our hospitals, our public services generally right now are struggling to get the staff they need? It's because freedom of movement has been ended, done to Scotland completely against our will. Why is it, despite the fact that the Scottish Government is investing billions to try to help people with the cost of living and lift children out of poverty, we're seeing some of that go in the wrong direction? It's because we've got a UK Government taking support away from the lowest income families, being done to Scotland completely against our will. So independence is about equipping ourselves to navigate those challenges. And of course, in terms of the global situation, it is not being independent that has taken Scotland out of Europe. I would want to see an independent Scotland back in Europe, cooperating with others to help make the world a better place, standing up for those principles of liberal democracy and freedom. So these are the arguments that, yes, I and those supporting independence will put to seek to persuade people. But the key point of democracy here, of course, is that these are not decisions for politicians. These are decisions that the people of Scotland should be able to make in a democratic way.
OK, I mean, some of your political opponents would say the problems that you're outlining, some of those problems with health and other environmental issues that you have to take responsibility for in Scotland as well. But let's just deal with the referendum question. You're asking the Supreme Court, the UK Supreme Court, if it's legal for you to call a referendum without the support of the UK government in Westminster. A lot of the legal commentary on this over the last 24 hours suggests that they think that you're unlikely to win. This is a big gamble for you personally and politically, isn't it?
Well, look, I believe Scotland would be better served by being independent, and I think in line with the mandate that exists in the Scottish Parliament, where a majority of MSPs support a referendum, that it should be for people to choose. It's not about me personally or my career, it's about seeking to do the right thing for Scotland. And in terms of the Supreme Court, it's the Lord Advocate here who has decided to refer this matter to the Supreme Court at my request, because the ability of the Scottish Parliament to legislate without a transfer of power by the UK government is contested. And perhaps unlike Boris Johnson, of course, who's trying to renege on the Northern Ireland Protocol by breaching the law, I respect the rule of law. I think it is absolutely fundamental that a referendum must be lawful. I think that is a matter of principle, but it's also a matter of practical reality. An unlawful referendum would not deliver its purpose, probably would not even be deliverable. So I am acting in a responsible way, respecting the rule of law, asking the Supreme Court to put this matter beyond legal doubt. I hope we get an outcome from the Supreme Court that allows us to take forward a referendum on the timescale I set out yesterday and have that on the 19th of October next year. But people in Scotland must have the ability to express their views on independence. Otherwise, we have a situation where the UK is not the democratic, voluntary union of nations that we've always been told it is. Instead, it becomes a construct in which Scottish democracy becomes a prisoner of a UK Prime Minister.
Okay.
Whatever you think on independence, that cannot be right. And actually, what we're now seeing in Scotland is not just an independence movement, it's a democracy movement, because whether you're yes or no to independence, I think the vast majority of people accept that that is a decision that can only be taken by the people of Scotland, and if there is a mandate for it, no Prime Minister should block it.
OK, so if you lose in the Supreme Court, if they say you can't call a referendum without the UK government agreeing to it, what happens then? I mean, would you consider having a referendum, sort of going it alone and having an advisory referendum or vote of some kind?
I would have hoped before interviewing me this morning you would have actually read what I said yesterday.
No, I know, but I know you're talking about using the general election.
No, but see, no. Can you please listen to me? Because if you'd read what I said yesterday, you would know the answer to that question. What we are proposing is, just actually as it was in 2014, a consultative advisory referendum. That's what referendums are in the UK. After a yes vote, and this was true in 2014 as well, the UK Parliament, the Scottish Parliament would have to pass legislation to give effect to that. So what we are seeking through the reference to the Supreme Court is to establish whether the Scottish Parliament can lawfully hold even an advisory referendum. Yes. I am not going to move forward with a referendum that is unlawful. What I said yesterday also, if the Supreme Court, and I hope this doesn't happen, but if the Supreme Court judgment, and it wouldn't be the fault of the court, it would be a reflection of the legislation, says that there is no lawful route for the Scottish Parliament to do that, and if the UK government continues to block a referendum, then yes, the general election becomes, as far as I'm concerned, the de facto referendum, because people cannot be blocked from having their say on this key issue.
OK, so that's my question was very specific.
So you become independent when a majority vote for it.
My question was very specific. So you wouldn't consider having any other kind of separate vote. It would be about the general election. But we all know that general elections are very different from referenda, aren't they? People are voting on all kinds of issues. You might say that it would then be an issue, a vote on Scottish independence, but people are going to be voting on everything in complex ways, in different constituencies, maybe tactically. It's not that simple.
Well, let me unpack that question. Firstly, I just want to underline the first point here because it was very clear in what I said yesterday that a referendum has to be lawful. That is why I have asked the Lord Advocate to refer this matter to the Supreme Court. There is no question of an unlawful referendum. I respect the rule of law and as I say, as a matter of practical reality, an unlawful referendum would not deliver independence. It's not my choice for this issue to be put to people in the general election. I want a lawful referendum. But if that is blocked at every turn, then the only option is for my party to say to people in the election, use this as the de facto referendum to express your views on independence, and I would be putting that very clearly to the Scottish people. Let me just finish that point by saying there are two things, one a matter of principle and one a matter of practical reality, and I'll set out this in more detail should we be in this situation, which I hope we won't be in because I hope we'll be able to have a lawful referendum. But the first issue of principle is that, and I've always said this, Scotland can only become independent if a majority of people vote for that proposition. And secondly, when a majority of people do vote for that proposition, as a matter of practical reality, and this would be true after a referendum, we have to negotiate the implementation of that with the UK government. So this is, and actually it's the UK government that should be getting pinned on the what ifs here. What I'm trying to do is respect democracy and the rule of law and to work a way to deliver the mandate in the Scottish Parliament for a lawful referendum. If that is blocked at every turn, then what does that say about UK democracy? What does it say about the nature of the UK? It's certainly not a voluntary union of equals. I'm the Democrat here trying to do the right, responsible, lawful thing, and I'm only having to find these different ways of doing it because I face a UK government that is denying democracy and seeking to block it. Not in the interest of Scotland, incidentally. They're seeking to block democracy because they are scared of the substantive debate on independence and they are absolutely terrified of the verdict of the Scottish people.
We have to leave it there, Nicola Sturgeon, but thank you so much for joining us on Breakfast this morning.
Thank you.